Hello, thank you, Hemant, for giving us time. So please tell us about on campus and what you offer and the entry requirements and all that, please.
You are very welcome, and thank you for having me. Hopefully I'll be able to give you all the information that you need, and we can get some students to come to our campuses as well, and hopefully help them come to the UK. So we are on campus. We offer pathway programs. So we offer two different types of path program centres. For example, we have one-to-one centres and we have one-to-many centres. What that basically means is that our one-to-many centres are based in, we've got one centre in London and we've got one centre in the north of England. So our London centre is based at Birkbeck University, and our North of England centre is based at UCLan University. And what this basically means is when the student comes and studies a pathway programme, so that could be a foundation programme, it could be International Year 1, or it could be pre-masters. When they come and study that at one of those two centres, they can either have progression onto one of those centres. For example, they can stay on at Birkbeck for the degree, or they can stay on at UCLan for the degree, or they can apply to one of our other university partners, or they can apply via UCAS to any other university in the UK. We have had students come and study with us who haven't been able to make direct entry into high-ranked universities, for example, places like LSE, King's, Durham, Loughborough, Manchester. However, they can come and do our pathway programme, and then they will be accepted onto the first year of the degree at one of those high-ranked centres as well. So these are our two centres that are academically focused and mainly for students that want to progress onto high-ranked universities within the UK and they can't get direct entry there. So we would do the pre-sessional programme and then they would progress onto one of those universities. We have a huge higher education team based at those centres, and that's why there are our hub and spoke centres and our one-to-many centres where students can progress to any other university in the UK.
Okay, do you also offer a pre-masters?
Yes, yes. So we offer undergraduate foundation program, we offer International Year 1, and we offer pre-masters.
Okay. And also, if you can let us know about the entry requirement, especially with this pandemic and the English requirement. And okay.
Yeah, of course. I'll come on to that in just a moment. I just wanted to also mention we have our one-to-one centres as well, which are Coventry, Hull, Sunderland, London South Bank and Reading. And this basically, at these centres, students would come and study the pathway programme. So, you know, Foundation International Year 1 or Pre-Masters at this centre, but they can only progress onto this centre. So they wouldn't be able to use the certificate to apply via UCAS. We don't have a higher education team based there to help them get to another university. And our partnership with these universities are that they complete their pathway program with us and then they progress onto that university. So basically, if a student wants to come to Coventry, London South Bank, Reading, Hull or Sunderland, they would need to do their pathway program at that centre. So let's say a student wants to come to Coventry, they do their foundation program at Coventry, and then they can only progress onto Coventry. So we wouldn't assist them to apply anywhere else because our progression is guaranteed progression onto that particular university. The same being with London South Bank, Sunderland, Hull and Reading. They would come and study the foundation there, and then they would progress onto that specific university. So that's why they differ to our London and our UK North Centre, because they wouldn't be able to apply to any other university in the UK. They would need to progress onto that specific university. These types of centres are good for students that know they want to go to that particular university, or for students that don't really mind where they progress onto in the UK, because we offer guaranteed progression at our centres as long as the student passes our foundation within 50%, in some cases 60%, and those are for life sciences programs such as biomedic, biology, veterinary sciences and things like that. So those would be the different types of centres that we have. In terms of the programs that we offer under on campus, we have English language preparation program, which is one term of just English. This is for students that have English lower than 4.5 IELTS. So students would need to add on one extra term of English to our pathway program if this is the case. We offer the undergraduate foundation program, which is a standard 3-term, 1-year program, and it's for students to progress academically and within their English in order to progress onto the university. And this is offered with 3 academic modules depending on which pathway they come under, and then 1 module of English alongside that, and then they would guarantee progression onto the university. We then offer International Year 1. When students complete International Year 1, they would progress onto Year 2 of the degree. And then we offer pre-masters as well. Now, pre-masters comes in different terms. So we have a 1-term, 2-term, and 3-term option. 1 term is 3 months for students that have higher level of English, for example, 6.0 or above. We have 2 terms, which is a 6-month program, which is for students that have 5.5 IELTS or above. And then we have a 3-term, 9-month program, which is our standard 1-year pre-masters, which is for students that have 5.0 IELTS or above. So those would be the options. If a student is coming for a standard undergraduate foundation program, at most of our centres, the entry requirement is 4.5 IELTS with nothing below 4.0. For our on-campus London centre, it's 5.0 IELTS with nothing below 4.5. All of our entry requirements are available on our website, oncampus.global. It's very easy to read, and it tells you exactly how many IELTS you need for the exact program at the exact university that you want to study. So we have a course finder section. If you go to oncampus.global, there is a course finder tab at the top. If you click on that, it has all the information detailed for every single program that we offer. So that's a good way to double check if a student is eligible as well. In terms of academics, now academics is broadly ranged because it does just depend on the centre, where the student has studied and where they're coming from. Obviously, if they're coming from somewhere like Pakistan, we would need their Year 10, Year 11 and Year 12 transcripts, so their secondary and their high school transcripts and certificates. And they would need to, for most of our centres, they would need to pass with 60% overall in order to get to our foundation. If they're coming for International Year 1, it would be 70%. And if they're coming for pre-masters, then they would need to have a second-class bachelor's degree from their country, and from Pakistan it would have to be a 4-year degree. So it would depend where the students are coming from in terms of entry requirements, but again, this information is available on our website, and there is a drop-down button where you can actually put the country that they've done their academics. For example, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bermuda, Cameroon. So you can drop down and select the country that the student has got their academics from, and it will tell you exactly what certificate we need. If a student is applying with their original transcripts and they are not in English, then we require a translated certified copy as well, and we need to have the original and the translated copy in order to assess the academics. If we have students that don't meet entry requirements, we can borderline to our centres. Some of them will accept, some of them won't. It will completely depend on a case-by-case basis. But as long as a student has UKVI IELTS that meet our requirements and their academics are nearly up to our entry requirement standard. So for example, for most of our centres, as long as they've done secondary certificate and high school certificate and they have 60% plus on these from most of our countries, then we should be able to take them on. If they have something like 50%, then we can usually borderline and it's usually okay. It just depends on what the student wants to come and study and what the progression degree is. Obviously, if they're doing something like life sciences pathway or the medicine pathway, but their scores in chemistry, biology, maths and English is low, then we probably wouldn't be able to accept for that particular pathway, but we might be able to take them on to something like business, which doesn't require so much correlation within patients and stuff like that. So, you know, there's a range of different options available for all of our students at all of our centres. In terms of prices, all of our centres are priced differently. So if a student is coming to you and they are, you know, on a budget and they would require slightly cheaper programs, then we have our Sunderland and London South Bank centres. Obviously Sunderland is cheaper in terms of living and accommodation as well. However, London would be slightly more expensive, but the tuition fees for both of these centres are quite low. They're £12,900. If students don't have a budget and they're more into their rankings, and they want to progress onto high ranked universities, then they would need to come to somewhere like London where they can progress onto high ranked universities, but the fees would be a lot higher as well because they are looking for a more academic module. We then have our middle university partners, for example, Coventry and Hull, which are good universities, and they're based in places in England where it's not so expensive to live, and the fees are around 13,900 for those programs as well. So again, it does just depend on what the student wants to come and study. Again, all of this information on the website for the exact program that they would need as well. Is there any other questions specifically that you would like me to go over?
Anything you can mention about initial deposits, like and how much they have to pay before CAT letters?
Of course. So again, this depends on where the students are coming from. If students are coming from any South Asian area, for example, if they're coming from
like from India.
From India, okay. So if they're coming from Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, they would need to pay a 2,880 initial deposit, which is our standard deposit for all of our students in order to secure their place. And then they would also need to pay the first term fees. So the first term fees ranges depending on which program they're coming to study, but it's around £4,500 depending on which centre. So in total, we would need around £7,000 from them in order for us to issue CAS. They can make that in installments, so they can pay us a deposit first, and then a couple of weeks later, they can pay us the first term fees. We don't need it all to come together. However, we will not issue CAS until we receive that full payment of the first term fees and also the initial deposit payment. This also helps with their visa application because the visa officers are more likely to take them seriously, that they actually want to come and study in the UK. And obviously, South Asia is quite a high risk region in terms of the UK borders anyway. So we try and make sure that our students have the best chance of getting their visas, and we have a very, very low refusal rate for our students that come and study with us. So that is a reason why we request this before CASing.
Okay. Do you do any pre-CAS interviews?
Yes, we do. So for students coming from those particular regions that I mentioned, plus Albania, we would do a compliance interview. So the students would get an invite from our compliance team. They would have a mock interview. We would then send you guys as the agency the transcript of that interview, and we would say, you know, the student needs help in X, Y, and Z. We would then schedule the actual interview with our team. Once they do the actual interview, if the student hasn't progressed from what we've said that they need to work on, then we might say that we're not able to take them on. Otherwise, we might give them another chance depending on how badly the student has performed. Usually, once we've done the first initial mock interview and we give you the feedback, the student is usually well prepared for the actual interview, and it goes smoothly and it's fine. But we do have pre-CAS interview, yes.
Okay. How about the intakes?
So intakes, we have two main intakes. So usually we have a September and January intake. With Coventry, we also have a June intake and a November intake as well. However, this year, obviously with COVID, we have had to rejig our intakes slightly. So for this specific 2020 intake, we have a September intake and also a November intake for all of our centres. Now, they are both completely different and they are both completely different options. So our September intake would be 1 term online, so they would start online learning in their home country. So this is for students who can't quite travel, or they don't feel like it's safe to travel, or borders aren't open yet, or they can't get visas and things like this. So they would start online in September, and then we would CAS them around October for them to come in December and then start face-to-face for their second term in January. So that's the first option. The second option is face-to-face start in November. So the student would come, we would start CASing in August, they would get their visa and they would arrive by November. The course starts on the 2nd of November and they would do the full program face-to-face as usual in our centres. So we are looking to reopen our centres in November. So this is obviously for students that can travel and they can get visa interviews and they can arrive on time. So we've got very flexible options for this intake only, but usually it would be a standard September or January intake for our students.